Hello, College Park 4th grade, Mr. Guyton here, and man, am I so excited. I mean, I'm always excited, but today I've got a candy bar. The only catch is, I've got to share it with my brother, but we're going to use fractions. And what he doesn't know is, he only gets 3/4. I mean, 3/4. Can you, like, why even bother, right? I, on the other hand, I'm going to get 1/12. 1/12. Can you believe it? 1/12. I cannot believe. You know, I really got to figure these fractions out. Okay, so what do I need to know here? Why don't I boil it down to the top 5 things I should know about fractions? We'll start with the clever title. How about fractions are fundamental? It's kind of corny, but I'll take it. Number 1, fractions are less than 1. Okay, so fractions are less than 1. 1 is greater than any fraction. Now, I know some of you guys are yelling at the screen right now, that's not entirely true, if you're that articulate. But I get it, it's not always true. Yeah, if your numerator is greater than your denominator, then you have what's called an improper fraction and blah, blah. But you know what? For our purposes here, we're going to consider fractions less than 1. Let me give you an example. So if I have a pizza, a blue pizza, and I divide it up into fourths, and I eat one of those fourths, 1/4, that's a big slice of pizza. That 1/4 is less than 1 whole pizza. Get it? The fraction is less than 1. All right, on to the next one. Number 2, fractions must be equal parts. This is really important. Fractions must be equal parts. We take our whole, in this case our blue pizza, and we divide it up into 4 equal parts. That's very important. This right here equals 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, the total. However, if I have a pizza and I cut it up into 4 parts that are not equal, like let's say something like this, sure, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parts, but if I cut myself a slice that's this big, and I share it with 3 of my friends saying that's 1/4, they might have a problem with that. You see how much bigger that 1/4 is than that 1/4? This isn't 1/4 at all. Fractions must be equal parts. All right, on to number 3. Number 3, the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Now, there's some exceptions to this one too, but all things held constant, cateris paribus. If the denominator, the number on the bottom, is larger, the fraction will be smaller. So for example, if I have something like this, 1/4, that 1/4 is going to be greater than something like, let's say, 1/8. Now, it seems like it should be the opposite. 8 is larger than 4, right? Well, here's how to look at it. If you have 1/4, that means that you're sharing with 4 people. 4 people are sharing that 1 whole. Over here, you have 8 people sharing the same 1 whole, which means that each one of them's getting less. So, here's a picture. Here's our pizza. We've got our fourths. There's 1/4. Well, if we draw the same pizza, except this time, instead of dividing it up into just fourths, we split those in half, and we end up with 8ths. 1/8, you can see, is smaller. It's actually exactly half the size. The larger the denominator, the smaller your fraction. All right, moving on. Number 4. This one's a big one. The same fraction doesn't always mean the same thing. Now, this one seems kind of obvious, but it's important to point out. So, for example, if I have 1/4 of a pizza, this 1/4 does not equal the same thing as 1/4 of a candy bar. These two things are not the same. 1/4 of $1 is not the same thing as 1/4 of $20. You understand? So even though they're 1/4, they're not the same thing necessarily. You have to be talking about the same thing. All right, on to number 5. Number 5 says a fraction can go by many different names. We call these equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions are just that. They're fractions that are equal or equivalent. So for example, if I take the same pizza example and I separate it into halves this time and I color in 1/2, that's going to equal the same thing as if I take that same pizza and this time separate it into fourths and color 2 of the fourths. In other words, 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4. Let me do a few more. See if you can catch the pattern. 3/6, 4/8, 5/10, and so on. These are all equivalent fractions. And it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't always have to be 1/2. You could have, thirds. So 1/3 could be the same thing as 2/6. It could be the same thing as, here, let's put a 3 up there and let's see if we can get a pattern going. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, and then we added 1 here. Let's see. Do you see any pattern? 3, 6. 9. Let's try 9. 3 times 1, 3 times 2, 3 times 3. There's always a pattern. Man, this all makes me think about that deal I had with my brother in the candy bar. Maybe I should be giving him a call up. Come on, pick up. Come on, pick up. Hey, man. Yeah, hey, what's the big idea? What was going on with that deal earlier? Well, yeah. How am I supposed to know that a 12th is so much smaller than a 4th? I mean, who knows that? Okay, well, it's time for a new deal anyhow. I tell you what, I'll give you 1/2, and I'll take, 6/12. How about that? Yeah? Yeah, you'll do that? Okay, cool, man. That sounds great. I'll send it right over. Wait, well, you can't hear me. What are you talking about, man? This is my brand new phone. It's like the iPhone 36.